Before there was Step Up, before Stomp the Yard, there was a scrappy $8 million movie that nobody in Hollywood believed in. You Got Served looks like a simple dance flick, but the story behind it is stranger than anything in the script. I've got 15 facts that will completely change how you see this movie, plus one jaw-dropping bonus at the end that absolutely nobody talks about. So speed up with me, because the list starts now. Number 1, written for Aaliyah and Ginuwine. Before B2K ever touched this script, it belonged to two completely different stars. This movie wasn't always called You Got Served. It started life as a project simply titled Dance, written by director Chris Stokes specifically for Aaliyah and Ginuwine, two R&B icons at the absolute peak of their careers. Picture that pairing for a second. Two of the biggest voices in music, both with natural screen presence, both capable of carrying a dance drama on star power alone. The chemistry on paper was electric, but on August 25, 2001, Aaliyah died in a plane crash in the Bahamas at just 22 years old, and the entire project collapsed overnight. Stokes shelved it. Nobody knew what to do with a script built around a star who was gone. For years, it just sat there, a ghost of a movie that almost was. The version we eventually got only exists because Stokes eventually found the courage to rebuild it from scratch. Even now, longtime fans who dig into the production history describe the Aaliyah version as one of the great what-ifs of early 2000s R&B cinema. Number 2, the script sat for 6 years. Here's the thing most fans never realize. You Got Served wasn't written in 2003. Chris Stokes had this script sitting in a drawer since around 1998, watching the underground dance battle scene in Los Angeles, and knowing it could be something big, but Hollywood wasn't interested. No major stars attached, no proven box office formula, no guaranteed return meant no green light over and over again. 6 years of rejection went by before Stokes realized he was thinking about this all wrong. He didn't need a studio to hand him stars, he already managed them. B2K was selling out arenas across the country, and Marquess Houston already had a built-in fan base from his years in Immature. All Stokes had to do was put the talent he already had onto film. He pitched it to Screen Gems as a vehicle for his own artists, locked in an $8 million budget, and got a yes on a shooting schedule of under 2 months. 6 long years of patience paid off in a single meeting. It's a reminder that in Hollywood, timing and leverage often matter just as much as raw talent when it comes to actually getting a project off the ground. If you are enjoying this, take 2 seconds and leave a like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. That support really motivates my work and helps a lot with bringing more content. Number 3, the cast snuck into real underground battles. You can't fake authenticity, and Chris Stokes knew it better than anyone. Before a single camera rolled, he sent his entire cast, and even the producers, straight into the field to infiltrate real underground dance battles happening across Los Angeles. No entourage, no cameras, just quiet observation of how real crews moved, talked, and battled for respect. Marquess Houston later said the cast trained for this like it was an actual sport, with 4.5 weeks of pure dance rehearsal on top of 2 more weeks dedicated purely to acting scenes. Even the choreography itself came from real street dancers pulled off those underground floors. And some of those same dancers landed roles in the finished film. Others from that same circuit would later go on to dance for Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, and Madonna. Everyone involved understood one simple truth. If the dancing looked fake for even a second, the entire movie would fall apart. That research paid off because even critics who dismissed the plot admitted the choreography felt lived in rather than staged for the cameras. Number 4, the on-screen fight was completely real. Remember the fight that breaks out during Wade's crew battle? Here's where it gets interesting. That was never in the script. The dancers on set got so genuinely competitive during filming that real tension boiled over between the crews. When one side started pulling ahead, people got angry, and not in a performance way. The director actually yelled "cut," and nobody stopped moving. Fists started flying while the cameras just kept rolling, capturing every second of it. And that raw, unplanned footage is the exact take that made it into the final cut. You can feel it the moment you watch that scene because the anger on screen isn't acted and the frustration isn't performed. These were professional dancers with real pride who genuinely hated losing, even inside a movie where the outcome had already been decided on paper. Their competitiveness overrode the script entirely, and the cameras just happened to catch it all. It's a rare case of a Hollywood production keeping the messiest, least controlled footage because it simply worked better than anything they could have written. Number 5. Omarion's backflip was completely improvised. The opening battle in this film is legendary for a reason, and one specific moment inside it wasn't choreographed at all. During filming, the director called cut, but Omarion didn't stop. He just kept dancing and kept battling like the scene was still live. Columbus Short, years before Stomp the Yard and years before Scandal, was right there next to him in that exact moment. Then, with zero rehearsal and zero warning, Omarion backflipped straight off Columbus Short's chest, and the entire crew around them lost it instantly. That move was never in the script, and it was never even discussed beforehand. Omarion later explained that the footage was completely spontaneous, born purely out of instinct in the moment, and that nobody planned for him to do it or for everyone else to react the way they did. It became a genuine battle moment caught live on film, and that same spontaneous take is the one that made 2004 audiences lose their minds in theaters. 2 decades later, that unscripted backflip is still the single clip most people bring up first when this movie comes up in conversation. Number 6. B2K broke up the same month the movie released. You Got Served hit theaters on January 30th, 2004, and B2K announced their breakup that very same month, which is brutal timing by any measure. This was a movie built to showcase the group's chemistry and their future together. And behind the scenes, the whole thing was quietly falling apart during production. Cash disputes, management issues, and internal disagreements had been building for a while, and the soundtrack ended up being the final album B2K ever released together as a group. Omarion went solo almost immediately after, and his debut album dropped in 2005 and landed straight at number 1 on the charts. The other members scattered in different directions. Lil Fizz, Raz B, and J Boog all pursued separate paths outside the group. For 14 straight years, B2K stayed broken apart until 2018, when they finally announced the Millennium Tour reunion, which went on to sell out arenas across America. But back in 2004, nobody watching this movie had any idea that comeback was even possible. The film itself became a strange time capsule of a group at its absolute peak, frozen on screen just weeks before it all quietly fell apart behind the scenes. Number 7. Kevin Federline made his film debut here before Britney, before the tabloids, before K-Fed became a punchline in every late-night monologue. Kevin Federline was simply a background dancer trying to make it in Los Angeles. You Got Served was his very first film credit, and he appears buried in a crowd scene where you genuinely blink and miss him. In 2004, absolutely nobody knew his name. He was just another body hitting his marks and collecting a paycheck like everyone else on set. Then everything changed almost overnight. Almost. Later that same year, he started dating Britney Spears, and by September they were already married, which put the once anonymous dancer from this movie on every magazine cover in the country. He later told People magazine something that has genuinely stuck with dancers ever since. There's nobody who gets less credit than someone dancing. He wasn't wrong about that either, because dancers build entire careers in the shadows, making the stars in front of them look incredible while rarely getting remembered themselves. Federline eventually walked away from dancing entirely, but for a brief moment, this movie held proof that his talent was real long before the tabloids ever cared. Number 8. They released an instructional dance video like Breakin'. This movie didn't just want you sitting there watching, it wanted you learning the moves yourself. Shortly after the DVD release, the team put out a companion video called You Got Served. Take it to the streets, breaking down the actual routines from the film step by step so fans could practice them at home. Choreographer Dave Scott built it using the same moves and the same energy as the original. And here's where it gets interesting. Breakin' did the exact same thing back in 1984, the film that directly inspired You Got Served in the first place. Omarion actually grew up obsessed with Breakin', and just like this movie, it released its own instructional dance companion on VHS 20 years earlier. The 1984 version taught an entire generation of kids how to pop and lock in their living rooms. And the 2004 version simply did the same thing all over again for a brand new generation of fans. History doesn't always repeat exactly, but in this case, it followed nearly the same choreography 20 years apart. Before we keep going, subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment telling me which movie or show you want me to cover next with strange behind-the-scenes facts. I read every single one. Number 9. Columbus short before Scandal. Columbus short made his film debut right here in You Got Served, buried in the background just like Kevin Federline was, completely unknown and unrecognized by anyone watching. But his trajectory afterward moved incredibly fast. Just 2 weeks into Britney Spears' Onyx Hotel tour, he got promoted from backup dancer straight up to choreographer and then to creative director, because someone finally saw what he was capable of. Hollywood saw it too. And in 2007, he landed the lead role in Stomp the Yard, another dance movie, except this time he was the actual star of the show. That film went on to gross over $75 million worldwide, and suddenly his face was everywhere in the industry. Then came Scandal in 2012, where he played Harrison Wright, Olivia Pope's trusted right-hand man, earning 3 full seasons of prestige television packed with critical acclaim and real awards buzz. All of it can be traced directly back to an uncredited background role in a movie that gave dozens of dancers their very first real shot at something bigger. Short himself later said in interviews that he never expected a background gig to become the foundation of an entire acting career. Number 10. Audiences started battling in theaters opening weekend. This movie didn't just play in theaters, it genuinely activated the people watching it. Omarion said something wild about this in later interviews, explaining that in the very first week the film came out, they got actual reports of people battling inside the theaters themselves, not just watching quietly in their seats. Audiences were getting up, dancing in the aisles, and challenging each other like they'd stepped directly into the movie's own dance warehouse. The film became something closer to live participation than passive entertainment. Matt Stone from South Park actually saw it play at the Magic Johnson Theaters in South Central Los Angeles, and he called it one of the worst films he'd ever seen critically, but in the same breath admitted that watching the crowd dance made it one of the best theatrical experiences of his entire life. That kind of raw crowd energy simply can't be manufactured by any marketing team. You Got Served didn't just capture a culture that already existed, it managed to ignite a brand new one in real time. Theater managers in some cities even reported having to remind crowds to stay in their seats, something almost unheard of for a modest dance drama. Number 11. Shum Jr. Started here before Glee, before Crazy Rich Asians, before Shadowhunters. Shum Jr. was just an uncredited dancer somewhere in the background of You Got Served, marking his very first on-screen appearance back in 2004. He was only 22 years old at the time, fresh out of San Francisco, and hungry for literally any opportunity he could find. He'd already dropped out of college to chase dance professionally, moving to Los Angeles with nothing but raw talent and pure ambition behind him. This movie gave him his first real taste of film work, and around that same period he also appeared in Apple's famous silhouetted iPod commercials, the ones with dancers moving against those bright-colored backgrounds everyone remembers. That was him too, completely anonymous and faceless, but still working steadily toward something bigger. From there, he climbed fast, picking up roles in Step Up 2 and Step Up 3D that slowly built real momentum behind him. Then Glee happened in 2009, where he played Mike Chang for 6 full seasons, earning 4 Screen Actors Guild nominations and winning once before landing in Crazy Rich Asians in 2018, one of the biggest films of that entire year. Nearly every step of that journey traces back to an anonymous dance credit most viewers never even noticed at the time. Number 12. $8 million budget, $48 million box office. Nobody expected this movie to dominate the way it did, and honestly, the numbers still feel almost impossible today. The budget sat at just $8 million, modest even by the standards of the early 2000s, and the cast had 0 proven box office draws attached, just a boy band and a handful of talented dancers. Screen Gems released it on Super Bowl weekend, January 30th, 2004, going head-to-head with the biggest television event of the entire year. Despite that brutal competition, You Got Served opened at number 1 with $16 million in its first weekend alone, doubling its entire production budget in just 3 days flat. By the time it finished its theatrical run, the worldwide gross had climbed past $48 million, a 6-to-1 return on the original investment. Critics absolutely hated it, with Rotten Tomatoes giving it a brutal 14% score, but none of that mattered to the audience. They showed up anyway. They danced in their seats, and they kept coming back for more screenings. It's a clean reminder that critical scores and audience passion don't always move in the same direction. Quick reminder to subscribe if you are enjoying these revelations. And tell me in the comments, do you know any strange fact about this movie that I didn't mention? Let's build the list together. Number 13. It launched the dance battle movie wave. Dance movies certainly existed before this one. Think Footloose, Dirty Dancing, and Save the Last Dance. But street dance battles between underground crews competing purely for cash and respect were genuinely new territory for mainstream film at the time. You Got Served effectively created the template that everyone else would follow afterward. Within just 3 years, Stomp the Yard dropped in theaters, followed quickly by Step Up, then Step Up 3D, and eventually Battle of the Year, as the entire genre exploded practically overnight. Reality television followed the exact same wave, with shows like America's Best Dance Crew and So You Think You Can Dance, all tracing their roots directly back to this low-budget 2004 film about a boy band and their friends. The parodies came just as fast, with South Park, Dance Flick from the Wayans Brothers, Meet the Spartans, and even Robot Chicken, all taking their own shots at it eventually. When a movie gets parodied that consistently across that many years, it almost always means it genuinely mattered to the culture around it. Very few $8 million dance films can claim they reshaped an entire decade of studio programming, but this one genuinely did. Number 14. South Park parodied it. Just 10 weeks later, You Got Served dropped in theaters on January 30th, 2004, and South Park's parody episode aired just 10 weeks later on April 7th, which is remarkably fast for Trey Parker and Matt Stone to roast an entire film that thoroughly. The episode, titled You Got Effed in the A, became an instant classic, with Stan getting served by a rival crew and his father, Randy, ending up hospitalized from being served far too hard. The whole premise was completely absurd on its face, but the inspiration behind it was genuinely real. Matt Stone had personally watched You Got Served at the Magic Johnson Theaters in South Central Los Angeles, sitting in an almost entirely packed audience with Trey Parker right beside him. He later admitted he found the film itself pretty terrible, but he simply couldn't deny how unforgettable the theater experience actually was, with people dancing in the aisles and reacting to every single move on screen. So they turned that entire feeling straight into comedy, and the resulting episode became an instant fan favorite that people still quote to this very day. Getting mocked that quickly by South Park was, in its own strange way, a badge of honor few movies ever earn. Almost at the end, and the best is still coming. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this video is reaching. Number 15. The Emerald actor died just 2 years later. Michael Taliaferro played Emerald, the drug dealer whose looming presence hung over David and Elgin throughout the entire movie, and he brought a genuine sense of menace to every single scene he appeared in. That deep, raspy voice combined with his sheer physical presence made you fully believe he would actually hurt these kids if they didn't pay him back what they owed. Taliaferro had actually been acting steadily since the early 90s, picking up smaller roles in bigger films like Half Past Dead alongside Steven Seagal and Friday After Next, quietly building a real career for himself along the way. Then on May 4th, 2006, he suffered a sudden stroke at just 44 years old, and he didn't survive it, passing away only 2 years after this film had hit theaters. His performance still lives on inside this movie today, and every single scene featuring Emerald carries real weight specifically because Taliaferro made every second of it feel completely genuine. It's a quiet, sobering footnote to a film that most people only remember for its energy and joy. Number 16. The opening dance took 2 full weeks to learn 2 weeks. 14 straight days, dedicated purely to that one opening sequence you see in the first few minutes of the film. The choreography was that intricate and even professional, seasoned dancers genuinely struggled to nail every single count during rehearsals. Choreographer Dave Scott designed the entire routine himself and pushed the whole cast to their absolute limits throughout the process, with the group training almost like athletes preparing for an actual championship fight. There were no shortcuts taken anywhere, and absolutely no compromises made along the way. When you watch that opening battle today, you're really watching hundreds of hours of rehearsal compressed down into just a few minutes of screen time. Every flip, every freeze, and every single transition was earned through pure repetition, real exhaustion, and total commitment from everyone involved. That relentless level of preparation is exactly why the sequence still holds up more than 20 years later, because you genuinely cannot fake that kind of precision on camera, no matter how good your editing team happens to be. $8 million turned into a cultural moment, and it all started with 2 grueling weeks nobody in the audience ever saw. And those were 15 strange facts about You Got Served, plus 1 bonus nobody talks about. This movie mattered more than critics ever gave it credit for, launching careers, sparking an entire genre, and getting audiences dancing in the aisles for real, all on a budget most studios wouldn't even trust with a single scene today. If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe, and comment which fact surprised you the most. And don't forget to suggest another movie that deserves a list of strange facts. See you in the next video.